Bring Me the Horizon's post-human Next Gen has been here for just under a month, and fans are already unpacking a lot of what the album has to offer. Not only does this 16-track EP have a lot, and I mean a lot, of content for us to listen to, but it also gives us some more insight into the post-human lore that was set up in the previous album, Post-Human Survival Horror. In this video, I'll be doing my very best to break down as much of the lore that I can that we have so far, and give you guys some relatively detailed information regarding what every single song on the album means, as well as who these characters are, and where we think the direction of Next Gen is taking the post-human lore. I'd like to give a massive thank you to Reddit user GlitteringLook2390 for providing a condensed summary of all the lore that we have so far, which was inspired by Brad Tasty Music's reaction to Post-Human Survival Horror, as well as Next Gen, as experts filled him in on the information. So before we talk about every single track, let's talk about the key characters. First up we have Genexus, a pharmaceutical company but really are a cult. They seem heavily influenced by Umbrella Corporation from Resident Evil, and some of their actions remind me personally of Shinra from Final Fantasy VII. Remember, Bring Me the Horizon are massive nerds, and they take a lot of inspiration from some of their favourite video games. Genexus follow a religious belief called Next Gen. They promise those unaffected by the virus so far they will fix things and promise an escape to Utopia, but are really capitalising off of the tragedy and getting them to submit, to use them for experiments and turning them into bioweapons. If you're unaware, the virus was introduced in the previous EP, Post-Human Survival Horror. If you'd like a video on that, you know what to do. Leave a like and let me know. Eve, a super intelligent AI and is aligned with Genexus. They refer to her as a sort of goddess who will help bring humanity through this apocalypse. Celine, a former member of the cult and is attempting to sabotage them because she's realised that they're a terrible company. Her daughter, Soph, or Sophie, is the album cover girl. She is stuck in the Genexus testing facility and being experimented on. Ollie. Ollie Sykes' character, a human who has survived the apocalypse so far, and initially tries siding with Eve and Genexus. However, as the album progresses, he becomes more and more disconnected from them and eventually disappears from their grasp. Dr. Carl Strassman, a former doctor of Genexus, responsible for creating the drug Pussy to help make people compliant. He is heard taking his own life at the end of track 7 whilst overcome with guilt about what he has done. Dreamseeker. Subjects are hooked to the machine and enter their mind, trying to link their physical body to the so-called Utopia dimension. During this, they are pumped full of Pussy, a compliance drug. It is heavenly there, but Genexus want to reach it first so Eve can control and manipulate the world. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about what every single track means in terms of the lore. Tracks 1 and 2, Dreamseeker and Utopia. The song is supposed to be how people feel when hooked up to this machine, so the listener is being experimented on and put in a heavenly world, but only for Genexus' selfish goals. Track 3, Kool-Aid. This is a closer look at real Genexus, how they try to corrupt and manipulate people by promising things like a utopia with love and compassion, but just want to control them. They gaslight people into thinking only they can give them fulfillment. Track 4, Top 10 Statues That Cried Blood. Talks about Ollie's character being completely emotionally broken and crying out for help. He knows he is exactly the kind of person the church wants to take advantage of, as he is so mentally drained and too tired to stand up for himself. The lyric, Tonight We Go to War, gives an idea that they want to fight, but also don't know how on earth they will win. The song gives a lot of nihilism and hopelessness against this awful corporation. Track 5, Limousine. From the perspective of a subject at the church who has submitted fully to their ideology and absolutely convinced they're on the road to salvation, they're also obsessed with Eve. The church took victim on a ride in a limousine to drive around the city to see what society is currently left with, in hopes of convincing people that the church will save them from the apocalypse. The feeling can also link in real life to Stockholm Syndrome. You become so accustomed to pain and sadness that you end up going back because it is all you know how to feel comfortable in. Track 6, Dark Side. From the perspective of Celine, leader of the rebels and whose child Soph is trapped in the Church of Genexus, Celine is desperate to find her but feels powerless, filling her with dread and anxiety beyond reason. Outside the law, it can be related to being in a depressive episode where paranoia and fear takes over, and you become a version of yourself you don't recognise or relate to. You lose who you are in those moments, and that is exactly what is happening to Celine. Track 7, A Bullet With My Name On. Speaks to the thoughts and feelings of what is left of humanity. There's a bleak acceptance that the situation was partly humanity's fault, considering humans have built Eve and other AI that have taken over completely. Discusses the toxic relationship with ourselves as individuals, as well as inability often to empathise, create these unstoppable issues like climate change that have led to the world to becoming more dangerous and a hostile place to live. Humanity has betrayed themselves and have created this dog-eat-dog situation, and that nobody trusts anyone. They even state that at this point, if Jesus Christ comes back, he would just be killed out of spite. In the outro, Dr. Carl Strassman is heard, who deeply regrets being part of Genexus in any way. He takes his own life out of shame and guilt for his role in creating Pussy, a manipulative drug administered to the population. Track 8, OST, Spiritual. The lyrics in this song are taken from the real ritual named the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram, and was done to clear the area of negative energies. Due to this, it's implied Genexus are performing the ritual to cleanse the area before the meeting in NA begins. It could be interpreted also as cleansing those attending of their addiction to pussy. They may also be performing the ritual to bless/sanctify their experiment. This song is mostly up to interpretation. This is interrupted by Ollie's character entering what he perceived to be an AA type meeting, transitioning into the next track. Track 9, NA. Structured as an AA type meeting set up by Genexus, but of course it's a trap. They are used to trick people into admitting all their fears, leading them to being convinced to join the cult as they can bring salvation. Also touches on the personal struggles with Ollie in real life, who has heavily battled with addiction before going to rehab almost a decade ago. Up to now, Ollie's character in the lore has been on the side of even Genexus, but is starting to lose hope in this, becoming disillusioned. He goes to one of those meetings to see if his feelings are justified. Track 10, Lost. Builds further from NA. A few weeks after Ollie's character attended the meeting, he realises it's only confirmed his uncomfortable feelings, and now feels so disconnected and unsure what to do next, he begins panicking and spiralling mentally, as suggested by the music video. The song's frantic sound is meant to reflect the feeling that his character is going through. Track 11, Strangers. The final of this little trilogy of tracks. At this point, Ollie and several other former employees of Genexus have come together to talk about their issues in a safer, truer environment than the fake meeting set up by the church. Out of lore, this song basically says if you're struggling mentally, find people to connect and talk to because it helps more than anyone in that position would believe. Track 12, RIP Dustcore Remix. This track discusses how Celine and Ollie both officially cut their ties to Genexus. Celine had been doing it all along, but pretending to still be a part of the church to trick Eve and make her believe she was on her side. They were actually once good friends. The song comes across as a breakup type song that is a breakup regarding a friendship relationship that Ollie and Celine had with Eve at one point. It is them saying that it's over and they are out. Track 13, Amen. This track begins at the end of RIP, where a funeral is taking place. The funeral could be the interpretation of the death of Celine and Ollie's dedication to Genexus. As such, this sounds like a direct reply from Genexus to Celine for her rejection of the church. It is extremely aggressive both in sound and lyrics. They are saying Operation Dreamseeker is well underway and nothing can be done to stop it, that it is too late to repent and that anyone who goes against them will suffer immensely. Track 14, OST, Pussy. Pussy stands for Pineal Upregulation Synthetic Substance Enhanced. This is a drug manufactured by Dr. Straussman at Genexus, which was made to keep the general population subdued and compliant with the organisation's activities. As part of the Dreamseeker process, it is implied that subjects are pumped full of this substance to help establish the connection between your physical body and utopia. The sound of the track represents what it feels like to be on this drug, and if you've heard the track, it's very cathartic. Track 15, Die For You. This is almost like a final battle, but just not physically. It's the underlying dedication to a cause you truly believe in, even if it's at your own expense. Toxic relationships, for example, not just with people, but addictions. In this, the drugs are personified as a person that manipulates Ollie's character, which eventually makes him realise he needs to be free. It links to the lore in that pussy is what has got people addicted and devoted to Genexus, and the rebels' dedication to sacrificing themselves to try and stop the Dreamseeker project. Track 16, Dig It. The aftermath of Die For You presented it in the form of a once-lost audio log from Celine and Ollie through a little angel robot scene on the front cover called M8 or Mate. This message was left for Celine's daughter, Soph, in case they didn't make it back from the final battle in Die For You. It's heavily apologetic and confessional. Celine expresses huge feelings of failure for her daughter and humanity in general for allowing Genexus to get away with their actions. Ollie feels responsible for helping the church for a small part of his life during Dreamseeker trials, which has eventually led to the torture and death of countless people. This can all be seen as a huge metaphor for how depression messes with your head, warping things to be worse than they are, highlighting self-hatred in tough times. And that, as far as it goes, is what we know about Next Gen and its lore. There are still things being solved every single day through the multi-dimensional Navigator website set up by Bringing the Horizon for us to access loads of files and audio logs to try and discover what is going on in this lore. Of course, the website also contains demos for unused tracks, and it is causing people to theorise that Posthuman 3 is literally around the corner. Now, while it might not be as close as some people are hoping for, it may well be closer than we are thinking, simply because the band stated during the development of Next Gen, they pushed it back further and further, not only to rewrite songs on the album due to the departure of Jordan Fish, but to make sure that Posthuman 3 and 4 come out a lot sooner than Next Gen did to Survival Horror. Thank you for watching the video. I appreciate that the information I present here is all over the place and is a lot to take in at once. Thanks again for watching, and when we know more about Next Gen, I will be sure to update this information package with the latest. Thanks again, and peace out.